The shell my shell and tell, is a shell called Xenophora conchyliflora.
You got it.
So that's called.
5 times.
For those of you who are new, all shells have a scientific name, and that scientific name is throughout the world. So anybody in the shell world would have recognized that from what I've said. The common name is called a carrier shell. What is so unique about a carrier shell is, I did do this down. A carrier shell is a shell collecting shell. So it actually starts to grow at this tiny little tip here, and as it grows, it has a special adhesive, and it glues pieces of shells to itself. This particular shell is from the Dominican Republic, and the Dominican Republic carrier shells are well known for collecting smooth rocks, you can see. So the first time I went to the Dominican Republic was in July of 2010. I've gone on several trips with groups of shellers, and on this particular trip there were 2 sisters from Pennsylvania, Karen and Claire. And the first day we went out snorkeling, we came back and they had bags full of these carrier shells. And I'm like, and I was pretty new at this at that time, and I'm like, where in the world did you find those? I didn't see any of those. So Karen took me out the very next day. It was about 6 feet of water. DR is usually, just beautiful to snorkel, very clear. And you look down, and at first all you're seeing is a landscape of piles of rocks. But then you start to identify that circular motion, which tells you that that is, in fact, a shell. And it was, when I suddenly saw that, it was like seeing a garden on the bottom of the floor. So it was, I'll never forget that experience. It was beautiful. So, fast forward a few years, I think I was doing some research for Lisa for an article I was writing. I am very humbled to have a shell named after me, Conosporilla, Linda Power's eye, which is from the Dominican Republic. That's another story for a different day, but in this article I was looking for some of my samples of that particular shell for pictures, and I come to my carrier shell, and I look very closely, and lo and behold, unusual for the Dominican Republic, this particular carrier shell has picked up what we, at the time when we were finding them, we were referring to them as little brown cones. Well, this happens to be the shell that was named after me. And when I realized that, I immediately took a picture and texted a real good friend of mine from the Boston area. I'm like, holy crap, look at this. And he's like, holy crap, you may be the only person in the world who has collected a shell with the shell that is named after you. And I did some research, and it could very well be true. So I entered it in the Sanibel Shell Show last year. I got a 2nd place, but even the person who won 1st place said, you should have won that category. So I think I'm going to try one more time and rewrite my description and, claim the title of being the only person who's ever collected a shell that has the shell that is named after them. As you guys, I can hand this around. The list comes off pretty easy, so be very careful. But.
All right, so back in 2022, Ian hit us, as everybody knows. A lot of us had lots of damage and lost the roofs and everything. First of all, I am Kathy Sysak. I've been in the club 6 years. I live in Venice. I go on the trips. I've been collecting shells from New Jersey, and I've been collecting shells since 1999 from Sanibel and the west coast of Florida. I have a rather large collection. Okay, so anyway, Ian hit in 22. I went on a key wading trip with the club in May of 23 and was walking along. The trip was almost over. It was 3 hours in, and I looked down and found this little guy. So this is a Caribbean vase shell. It's in the family called Vacidae. And I'll read a quick little description about it, just so you know what it is. No, this was in key wading. So key wading is one of the
gathering up there and hunting is like arrowheads and flints and that kind of artifacts. And it was getting to be about August and September, and I was like dying for something to look for because all the crops had been planted, no more finding anything in the fields. And so I thought, well, there's got to be something. Well, you know what? I came down with a kind of a weird diagnosis of what was wrong with me. And I was looking around and I stumbled across it on the internet. I was like, oh, you have a beachitude. Is that what beachitude is? A beachitude is when you're feeling snarky and angry because you missed the beach. And so I'm like, that's what's wrong with me. So I thought, what can I do? Because I have all my shells, crafts type stuff in Florida. So I thought, you know what? I like to make like shell displays and stuff, and I have some, had done some scallops in a design. And I thought, I don't have any of that here, but you know what I do have is winnow traps, Epitonian winnow traps. So I went to my vase of winnow traps and I started going through them, and so I came up with a design of winnow traps from bigger to little in a swirl design. And so I played with those for a while and kind of got my beach fix. But I have to tell you, there's 71 of the winnow traps on there. And I think they're mostly the Angulata. Might be a couple Humphreys snuck in there. But I was telling Judy, I said, so there's 71 winnow traps. She said, oh, is that because that's how old you are? I'm like, well, no, but that's kind of like a good idea, but I think I just need to add a couple more. So I might have to amend what this is. But anyway, that's what I have. You have to get your nose to the ground.
Yes.
So.
It's my 71st birthday
Oh,
this year.
no.
71
I'll
ways.
teach you how to do it.